Hey everyone, and welcome back to Viral and Vinyl. I'm Blaze.
And I'm Electra.
And we're so ready to dive into some music history today. You ready?
Oh, absolutely. I've got my headphones on and my air guitar ready to go.
Haha, nice. Well, today we're taking a trip back in time to 1986.
Ooh, 1986. Now that was a year.
Oh yeah, it was a huge year for classic rock.
I mean, huge E. So many iconic albums came out.
Exactly. And to help us navigate this musical landscape, we're using a list from Radio X.
Okay, cool.
The 25 best classic rock albums of 1986.
That's a good one. Definitely a solid starting point.
Totally. Now, 1986 was just bursting with musical brilliance. So this list is just a jumping off point, you know.
Oh, for sure. Just a taste.
So while we go through it, we want to hear from you. What albums from 86 are you still spinning?
Yes. What brings back those memories?
Hit us up in the comments. Let's make this a conversation.
Absolutely. All right, so where do we start with this list? It's packed.
Well, I think we got to start with some of the biggest names, right?
Okay, yeah.
The heavy hitters.
We're talking Genesis, Queen, Bon Jovi, Metallica. Whoa, all in one year. That's insane.
It's crazy, right? All these bands releasing major albums in 86.
It really shows you the power of that year in music.
And it's not just about the big names either.
True, true. We got to remember the variety of sounds back then.
Yeah. When you say classic rock in 86, it could mean so many things.
Exactly. You've got everything from Ozzy Osbourne's hard rock
to the Bangles, just pure pop perfection.
Right. And then you've got Bruce Hornsby and The Range bringing in those jazzy folk influences.
Oh, and we can't forget Bonnie Tyler.
Oh, yeah. She proved she wasn't just an 83 one-hit wonder.
Definitely not Secret Dreams and Forbidden Fire. Still a classic.
Okay, so let's dive into some specifics here. I'm itching to talk about some of these albums.
Let's do it. We got to talk about Genesis Invisible Touch.
Oh, man. That album was everywhere in 86.
It was inescapable. And that video for Land of Confusion.
With the spitting image puppets. Oh, my God.
So good. So weird. So 80s?
It's iconic. What did you think about Genesis going in a more pop direction with that album, though?
It was definitely a bold move, for sure.
They went full-on pop. And, you know, it worked for them. They had massive commercial success.
They did. But it definitely alienated some of their prog rock fans.
Yeah, some people felt like they'd sold out a little.
Maybe. But looking back, it's just fascinating to see how they evolved their sound.
Totally. And that Land of Confusion video.
It's like a perfect time capsule of the anxieties and the political satire of the 80s.
Genesis wasn't afraid to experiment or push boundaries.
And speaking of pushing boundaries, Queen.
Ah, yes. Another band that had a monumental year in 86.
A Kind of Magic. That album was just epic.
And it was tied to the movie Highlander, right?
Yeah, which made it even cooler. You know, combining their dramatic operatic style with the movie's themes of immortality and battles.
It was such a cool pairing. I mean, who wants to live forever?
Instant classic chills every time.
It's interesting, though, how bands were starting to embrace those multimedia approaches back then.
Right, like King Floyd with The Wall.
Exactly. And Queen took it to another level with A Kind of Magic. It was like they were creating entire worlds around their music.
Okay, get ready for this one. Bon Jovi Slippery When Wet.
The album that launched 1,000 hair bands.
Seriously, this was their breakout album, right?
Oh, absolutely. But here's a fun fact for you.
Hit me with it.
This was actually their third album.
No way!
Yes, they had been working for years before hitting it big.
So you can really hear that experience in the songwriting on Slippery When Wet.
Absolutely. They just nailed the sound of 80s arena rock.
Big anthems, catchy hooks, and yeah, a whole lot of hairspray.
Their songs were made for stadiums.
And then on a completely different end of the spectrum, you have Metallica releasing Master of Puppets.
What a powerful album. So dark, so intense.
And so tragic considering what happened later that year.
Yeah, Cliff Burton's death. It was a huge loss for the music world.
Master of Puppets is considered a landmark album in thrash metal history.
It really is. And
No.
Cliff Burton's bass playing on it is groundbreaking.
He was so much more than just a bass player. He was like another lead instrument.
Exactly. He was creating these intricate melodies using harmonics in a way that was totally new for the genre.
It's amazing how much variety we're seeing just within this one list.
It's crazy. We've got Ozzy Osbourne still rocking hard with The Ultimate Sin.
The Bangles, delivering pure pop perfection with Different Light.
Manic Monday. Anyone else have that on repeat back in the day?
Oh yeah, that song is a classic. And then you've got Bruce Hornsby and The Range.
The Way It Is brought something so fresh and different to the scene.
They weren't afraid to experiment with different sounds, and that's what made them stand out.
You know, it's incredible how much we've already covered.
I know, right? And we're just getting started.
This is just a taste of what 1986 had to offer.
So tell us what albums from this year are bringing back memories for you?
What songs are you putting on your playlist right now?
Let us know in the comments. We want to hear your stories.
I know, right? It's crazy to think we've only just dipped our toes into the musical ocean of 1986.
Right. We've talked about those stadium fillers, those chart toppers.
But there were some serious hidden gems released that year, too.
Oh, yeah. Bands on a rise, artists reinventing themselves.
It was a year of musical discovery for sure.
It really was.
Yeah.
And, thinking back to these albums and artists, it makes you realize just how influential MTV was back then.
Oh, absolutely. Music videos weren't just promotional tools. They were events.
Works of art.
Exactly. They shaped how we experience the music.
The perfect example, Peter Gabriel's,
Yes, a masterpiece.
his first self-titled album, right?
It was. And it was a real departure from his earlier work.
More world music influences experimental sounds. It really broadened his artistic palette.
It did. And that Sledgehammer video?
Oh my gosh, stop-motion animation, claymation, those dancing chickens.
Groundbreaking. It was like nothing we'd seen before.
It really cemented Peter Gabriel's reputation as a visual innovator.
For sure. It's interesting to compare Sledgehammer to, say, the Land of Confusion video we talked about earlier.
Both pushing boundaries, but in very different ways.
Exactly. It just shows you the incredible creativity that was flourishing in music videos at that time.
Okay. This next one is a bit of a guilty pleasure for me.
Oh, I love guilty pleasures. Hit me.
Europe's The Final Countdown.
Haha. Oh, yes, cheesy.
But iconic.
Absolutely.
That keyboard riff, though,
Yeah.
it's instantly recognizable.
I bet it's playing in your head right now.
Stop it. It is, I can't get it out.
But the Final Countdown, it's more than just a catchy tune.
Right, it became an anthem, a cultural touchstone.
It's the soundtrack to so many 80s movies and TV shows.
Speaking of cultural touchstones, Paul Simon's Graceland.
Now, that was a landmark album, both musically and politically.
Absolutely. His decision to collaborate with South African musicians during apartheid. That was a bold move. It sparked a lot of debate about cultural appropriation.
It did, but it also introduced the world to the richness and beauty of South African music.
Graceland was a game changer. It challenged musical boundaries and sparked important conversations.
It really shows the power music has to transcend cultural barriers and ignite social change.
All right, let's shift gears for a minute and talk about some artists who were breaking away from the bands that made them famous.
Oh, yeah. Going solo, taking a leap of faith.
First up, Steve Winwood.
Ah, yes. He had a massive comeback in '86 with Back in the High Life.
That smooth, soulful vibe. It really resonated with people.
Higher Love, still a classic.
Timeless. That feeling you get when you hear it.
It just makes you feel good. Winwood really showcased his versatility on that album.
And speaking of going solo, we can't forget about David Lee Roth.
Oh, yeah, Diamond Dave. What a character.
Leaving Van Halen at the peak of their fame to launch his solo career.
Eat 'em and smile. Talk about a statement.
It's pure Roth. Big personality, big guitar riffs, a whole lot of fun.
It's interesting to compare Roth's solo work to what Van Halen was doing at the time.
Both successful, but with very distinct sounds.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And while we're on the topic of bands branching out, REM released Life's Rich Pageant in '86.
The one with the missing apostrophe.
Uh-huh. I always remember that little detail. It's funny how those quirks become part of an album's legacy.
Life's Rich Pageant marked a shift for REM towards a bigger, more polished sound.
And their lyrics became more politically charged, which became a hallmark of their later work.
It's fascinating to see how bands change and mature over time.
Finding their voice, pushing their creative boundaries. And speaking of pushing boundaries, Megadeth.
Peace sells, but who's buying? A thrash metal masterpiece.
It really is. What's so remarkable about that album is how they combined technical brilliance with intelligent lyrics.
They were tackling social and political issues, headbanging with a message.
Exactly. It showed that thrash metal could be more than just speed and aggression. It could be a platform for thoughtful commentary.
And for all you metalheads out there, Iron Maiden was also on fire in '86 with Somewhere in Time.
Adrian Smith's guitar work on that album is phenomenal.
They even incorporated synthesizers for the first time.
They were experimenting, evolving their sound, but staying true to their metal roots.
It's a testament to their longevity and their ability to keep things fresh without losing their core identity.
Somewhere in Time is proof that Iron Maiden were masters of their craft.
So we've got arena rock anthems, thrash metal masterpieces.
Top crossovers, soulful ballads.
1986 truly had something for everyone.
And we've only just scratched the surface. This Radio X list is a fantastic starting point.
But there are so many other albums worth exploring from that year.
So many deep cuts, hidden gems just waiting to be rediscovered.
We want to hear from you. What are some of your favorite albums from 1986 that didn't make this list?
Share your picks in the comments.
Yeah.
Let's expand this musical journey together.
Oh, what a journey.
I know, right? We went from arena rock to pop crossovers.
Thrash metal, soulful ballads.
1986 was a year packed with musical innovation.
It really was. And it's amazing to think about the lasting impact this music still has today.
Absolutely. These albums aren't just historical artifacts.
They're still shaping music today, inspiring new artists.
Think about all the bands and musicians who cite these 1986 albums as influences.
It's like a musical chain reaction, you know?
It really is. The echoes of that year are still reverberating through modern music.
And it's not just about the music itself.
Right.
It's about the connections.
The connections between artists, between eras.
And most importantly, the connections between people. I bet a lot of you listening right now have vivid memories tied to these albums.
Oh, yeah. A first date, a high school dance.
A summer road trip.
Certain songs just take you back.
And that's what we love about doing these deep dives with you.
It's a chance to revisit these albums, share our perspectives.
And hear your stories. So tell us what songs from 1986 take you back.
What memories do they evoke for you?
Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.
And as you listen to these albums, think about how they shape the landscape of music moving forward.
Did they plant the seeds for trends that would define the rest of the decade?
What are the lasting legacies of these artists and their music?
It's something to ponder as you spin those vinyl classics.
Or cue up your digital playlists.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep listening.
And keep those musical connections alive.
We'll catch you on the flip side for another deep dive into the world of music.